Here we are, ready for our big stories this morning. And we are taking a look at this new curriculum that has been introduced or rolled out. The Ghana Education Service, the Ministry of Education, they've rolled out this new curriculum for second cycle schools through the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, that is NACA. And this service is beginning this academic year, and we're going to look at what is expected to redefine the future of education in the country. And they say it is nurturing critical thinking and creativity. But it has also come under some controversy because minority in Parliament, or should I say Parliament, the deputy ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee says he or the committee was not consulted before the rollout. So let's delve into the issue right here on the AM show. Our guest this morning is Mr. Kofi Asare, the Executive Director for Africa Education Watch. Thank you, sir, for joining us on this conversation.
Thank you for having me. Good morning. Good morning to your audience.
Okay. So this new curriculum for second cycle schools, we know that it's been structured to shift the focus from rote learning and memorization to critical thinking, but there's also some concerns that have been raised. So you tell us, first of all, what is your take on this matter before we get surgical with the issues?
Well, I think that the curriculum is well intended. It is in response to global trends in human capital development and the need to ensure that we produce a youth that are ready for the world of work, imbibed with the necessary digital 21st century skills, and have the necessary national values, or if you like, value-based education, to be competitive within the global arena. Bear in mind that in a couple of years' time, Africa will host majority of the world's youthful population. About 60% of Africa will be below the age of 24. And the whole world will be relying on Africa to produce the critical manpower to drive socio-economic transformation. And Ghana is part of that. And so whether or not Africa and Ghana succeeds in becoming the hub of the world's youthful manpower depends on the quality of young people we churn out from our training institutions, especially at the secondary level. So this is the context within which we have this conversation.
Okay. I would like to know what your understanding of the key changes that have been made to the curriculum is as we speak, and also for the benefit of those watching who are concerned about this. What is your understanding of what this new curriculum is? I mean, the groupings, these 4 areas, A, B, C, and D, and how you select select subjects, select the related area, elective, and all that. What is your understanding of it? Walk us through that.
The new curriculum is not just about selection. It appears that's what everybody's interested in. Right? It's not just about the selection. The selection gets a bit technical, but if you are doing a particular program, and you're in a particular school, not all schools will offer every program you are saying here. Okay, not every school will do STEM as a program. There are very few of them, and so the permutations sometimes become confusing because, we are starting. Okay, we are starting with only Form 1 students. Yeah. So you don't expect that everybody becomes an expert at this point. These subject combinations have gone through lots of reviews in the past 2 years or the past 1.5 years. So every school has the competency to deliver training or teaching in the areas that students are allowed to select. And guidance is given, while you are in school as well to understand the permutations. Okay. Now let me also indicate that this curriculum is not, it's not useful just because of the subject permutations. This curriculum appreciates that learners enter secondary school with various levels of learning attainment. Okay. And that it would be necessary to provide remedial interventions, especially in the foundational subjects, in maths and English, okay, to learners who may have deficits, in learning attainment or in proficiency, if you like, in the subjects, bringing them from the basic school to the secondary school. And so it has a remedial curriculum. Let me put it that way. There's a remedial curriculum for maths and English, where a diagnostic test, okay, will be undertaken upon entry. And then based on the test outcome.
Are you saying that before you even begin Form 1, you take a diagnostic test to assess where to place you?
Not where to place you, to assess whether you require remedial intervention in maths and English or not. And so that will afford the opportunity of deploying the interventions and targeting them at those who require that particular intervention. So it enables differentiated learning to take place because you identify students who have peculiar needs, especially in maths and English. So that is one good thing about this. Assuming that all of us in senior high school 1 have the same or equal or are within the same range of proficiency when it comes to maths and English, it's wrong. Okay, so that is one thing that this curriculum does. It is not a straitjacket one. Within the context of it not being straitjacket, by being flexible to respond to the exigencies and also the need of the learner, the curriculum also has what we call a very, very flexible subject permutation that enables one to determine their pathway. When you get to secondary school, many a times, you may not even know what you want to do in the university. You may not have fully, when I was in secondary school, I didn't know what I wanted to do in the university. You understand? It is as you develop through your academic journey that you begin to, put a finger, on exactly what you want to pursue at the university. By the time you have started secondary school already, you might have decided that you want to do science. And so you might have decided you want to go and do general arts in senior high school. But while in senior high school, you develop interest in, let's say, in an engineering area. You want to go and do computer science, BSc computer science. But you're already in senior high school doing general arts. So you are limited, right?
Right.
Now, what this curriculum does is that it provides you with the flexibility that as and when that decision is taken, you still have an option of subject permutations that will enable you to vary or to horizontally move from one discipline to the other.
Okay.
Just because you satisfy certain and I'll give you an example to make it easier for you. You are in school doing general arts, okay, and then while in school you develop strong interest in doing computer science. Okay, you are able to select computer science as a subject, even though you are a general arts student. You are an arts student, okay. So you are doing your compulsory subjects. There are 4 core subjects for this particular general arts student.
I thought there were 6 core subjects. In fact, we have this. Let's go through it. Let me go through it for a second, and then you come in, and then Benjamin will also come in a bit. So, for example, with the focus on science students, it means that they have mathematics, social studies, English, physical education and health, and robotics and coding as core subjects. These are 5 subjects as core, and then you have the learning area electives. So you have biology, chemistry, and physics. And then, that's all compulsory, so you do all. And then you have the related learning area electives, where you choose either 1 or 2. So focus on science students, we have additional mathematics, ICT, computer science, geography, agriculture, and PEA, that's physical education, also as an elective. And then you go to the other electives where you can pick either 1 or 2. You have economics, government, history, CRS, literature, and music. So what you're saying is that if you're a student who's interested in science and you also have some interest in maybe home economics and the rest, you have the opportunity to choose your related learning area electives from the other area that is not your core subjects as a science student. Is that correct?
That is partially correct.
Okay. What is the gap left there?
This general art student I was using as an example, yes, you will do physical education and health, PH, okay? But you don't count it as core, okay? It is foundational. It is not examinable. And so you don't call it core. You do it only in 1 year. Okay, so you don't call it core. Again, as this particular general, and I want to use a general art student example so that we don't confuse ourselves. Let's take the general. This general art student also will have the opportunity of doing robotics and coding. You don't see it as your core that you are doing from Form 1 to Form 3 and being examined on. You do it only in, it's compulsory for only year 2. You understand?
And that's also not examinable.
Yes, but it's compulsory for year 2.
Okay.
So your core subjects are still 4: maths, social studies, English language, and general science. But you do 2 subjects along the way, which are compulsory.
Okay.
One is PH, physical education and health, and then the other is your
robotics and coding, right?
Exactly. One in year 1, and one in year 2. Now, the point I was making is that while in the general arts class or category, you can choose to select a subject combination that reflects general arts and then engineering. You can do, in addition to your core, you can do up to 5 electives.
Which is either economics, geography, history, CRS, literature, or music.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So you can decide to do economics, additional mathematics, and then computing. You can decide to do economics, additional mathematics, and computing. You can decide to do history, additional mathematics, and computing. So you can do any subject combination from the 3 groups there. Okay. But once you are doing computing and additional mathematics, those 2 alone can take you to BSc, computer engineering, or any of the engineering at the tertiary level. You understand? So you are not a STEM student at the secondary level, but you can go to the tertiary level and do a STEM program in computing or in engineering by virtue of these 2 subject combinations.
All right.
It is similar to what we have under the A-level system. It is virtually, if not the same, it is similar to what we had under the A-level system. So that one is not restricted to select only the arts subject because you are an art student. Okay. Or you are not restricted to select only business subjects because you're a business student. I'll give you another example of a business student to make it a bit clear for the business guys too. You're a business student. You have your core, your 4 core, and then you have electives. You want to go and do the same, let's say agricultural science, okay, in the university. You can have subject combinations. You can do biology and agricultural science, even though you are a business student. You can also choose to do computing and add maths, even though you're a business student. Add it to your business program, your business subjects, and then go to the university and then do computing.
All right, Mr. Asare, I think that the part, in terms of the selection of the courses, that part is clear. In your initial remarks, you said there's been a lot of review. How extensive were the consultations and the reviews that came in before the rollout of this curriculum? And then you can hold for Ben.
I am not an expert in this area, okay? And so I am trying to explain my understanding of the curriculum based on the knowledge I acquired having participated in these consultations. So that should tell you the level of consultation. I'm not an expert in this area, but everything I'm saying today is as a result of the knowledge I acquired having participated in the consultation. Of course, I represent on the Teacher Education Curriculum Technical Working Group, and because of that, I'm privy to the framework for developing the curriculum for teachers who would teach in this curriculum. And then also we've had engagement with NACA on the curriculum. I mean, in the past year, I mean, about 2 years, we've been having engagements, CSOs, teacher unions. They've been going around the country engaging stakeholders in the process of developing the curriculum.
For 2 years.
What I see to be where there's a little gap is the communication on the final, because the product kept changing because of the iterative nature, because of the way the consultations were going on, shaping, the design, etc. So I see that at this point, no, perhaps prior to this point, we could have had more extensive, if I say we, I'm talking about stakeholders in the sector, would have had more engagement with especially parents and the general public on the quite confusing stuff, especially if not including the subject combinations. Because I spoke to a parent who wanted his son to go to Presec when he was selecting the schools. And I asked him, why do you want your son to go to Presec? And this is a senior colleague. And he said, oh, I want, because he wants to go to Legon and do computer science. And I said, your son doesn't need to go and do science at Presec, to go and do computer science at tertiary. He said, oh, how? By that time, he had already selected Presec science. But the deadline wasn't due yet. So I asked them to go to the school is in Tamale, to go to the school, and then ask the school to change the course from science to general arts. Because if you really want to go and do computer science, you don't need to go and box yourself in that science space at the second, because that space is already competitive. You can have subject combinations as a general arts student, okay, that will enable you to do your engineering program.
Right, so flexibility to pursue different interests while you figure out or fine-tune exactly what you're aiming for in the tertiary,
exactly.
at the tertiary level. Exactly. Benjamin.
Kofi, I mean, all of this is good. I've always been a fan of doing different things. I started with general arts, though I was nearly pushed into science back in the day. General arts, I built my knowledge in science. I read a lot in the sciences, even medical sciences. And I've veered into different things, language, law, and all that. So I'm one for versatility and doing multiple things to build yourself as a human being. But I also feel that while it is encouraging that we are devolving into these areas, robotics and everything, I feel how we are articulating or skewing them may be problematic. If you look at the Norwegian system, which is one of the best in the world, at senior high level or general upper secondary level, you are seeing students learning things like Norwegian itself as a language, mathematics, natural science, English, social science, geography, history, religion and ethics, and physical education. Maybe it is how we are piecing them together, because I am asking, for example, Kofi, why am I not seeing French in there? I love the fact that there's Arabic, one of the major languages now in terms of population, different numbers speaking them, and in terms of relevance at the UN. Spanish as well, especially if you want to work in the US or some other place. But I'm asking, would you put a Spanish, a language I speak anyway, and I love, but would you put it over French? When you're surrounded by the sort of entities you are, when in ECOWAS, French-speaking nations are, juggernauts and they are contributing. And by the way, many Ghanaians miss out on certain jobs because they have no knowledge of French. There was a time when recently I was handling a program and we needed a female MC in Ghana who could speak French. We couldn't find one because the level required was high. It wasn't any, we couldn't find one. So that is one, my issue with French. I don't know whether it's an issue for you. Agriculture or agricultural science, I feel back then, at least JSS, it was there for all of us. Is that something we could do as a means of feeding the agri sector, which is one of our economic backbones? And I also feel like in the Norwegian system where they have religion and ethics, especially with everything going on in our world today, Christian religious studies or Islamic religious studies, whatever it is, but I think it can be fused together, religious studies, should be something that probably permeates, cuts across all levels, whether it's science, business, or whatever. Your reactions to these for now?
I think your concerns are legit, and fully well appreciated within the global scheme of things. Except that the approaches may differ. If you study this curriculum carefully, it virtually reduces the number of subjects being offered in our secondary education system from 63 to about 37 or so, okay? And then it reduces some by combining some of them, okay? Because we have so many subjects being taught. Now, there is a school of thought that believes that, yes, certain international languages should be compulsory, okay? But there's another school of thought that also believes that if we should make any language compulsory for people, it should be our local indigenous language and not international languages, even though we know that is the international language that makes you more globally competitive. So that is a discussion that never ends. But the reality is that there are so many subjects that are very, very foundational, fundamental, you know, in the upbringing, in the development, in the professional career of our students, that if we have to make all of them compulsory, you're going to have a very, very bloated curriculum that will not be practicable to deploy. So if you look carefully at this, all the subject combinations I mentioned, for the general science student I was talking about, he has the option of doing French. If you look at the section C of the general arts combination, we have Arabic, we have French, we have Spanish. So there are 3 international languages, and then we have Ghanaian language under Group C. So we have 4 languages from which that student can select up to 2. Okay, and so this student I'm talking about can decide that because I have an interest in doing French to enable me to become much more globally competitive in my computer science I want to pursue. I will do computer science, I will do my advanced, but I'll do French in addition to my electives. So that can be your 4th core, or it can even be your 3rd core. Because
Is there French in there, though? Is there French?
Yeah. Yes, that's French.
Okay, then I think what we looked at may not have had, because what we've put out does not include French. And that was one of my concerns. I would have found that a bit weird. But if there's French and there is Arabic and Spanish, then it makes complete sense to me. In fact, just a reminder, my Ivorian friends and some of those in the Francophone countries around us, because they speak French, usually what they have in there, they would have, I think, English being compulsory, and that's why a lot of them are so good. A lot of them actually come to places like Ghana to study, and then they would have German and then Spanish as well. If you follow their system, most of them speak French, have a good level of English, and usually it's either Spanish or German.
Yeah, I agree with you. So there's French, there's Spanish, there's Arabic, and then there's Ghanaian language. And so that flexibility is there, but then it's actually not the compulsory program that when we're doing O-level, we're doing French for first 3 years compulsory. But it's an elective which one can opt to do. And the flexibility here also is that you're not supposed to do just 3 or 4 electives. You're supposed to do your 4 core and a maximum of 5 electives, minimum of 3 electives. So if you want to add French as an additional one after your 3 compulsory electives, that's fine. If you want it to be part of your electives, you can still up to. The second is the issue of agriculture. You mentioned that, yes, of course. And people will always say, and I am one of those that fully subscribe to the fact that agriculture is our backbone. Okay, the average African spends about 44 to 45% of disposable income, on food. And the continent that doesn't feed itself can obviously not survive, the next generation. And so if we know that we have created demand for our feeding, if we are able to produce enough, then we already have a business in Africa.
Right.
But the challenge is that we are net importers of food today, than in the past. And so I believe that agric is one skill that every student that enters our pre-tertiary education system must not live without acquiring that particular skill. Not that
and I may just add this, Kofi Asare. You see, back in our day, we were on school farms. My school had a school farm. You'd be growing yam and all kinds of things. Even if you were technically at the secondary level pursuing your general arts, you still had some sort of feel of that. Nowadays, that is practically non-existent in most schools. So you are robbed of the practical aspect, and you're also robbed of the theoretical aspect. Just adding to what you're saying.
Yes, it is true. And it is not because we want someone to go and become a farmer. Okay. I do farming as part of my work. I do farming. But I got an interest from the agric I did in secondary school. Okay. The compulsory agric I did in secondary school. But the point is that if you become a decision maker, wherever you find yourself, even in the medical field, any field, you would appreciate at that level of decision making that agric is important and it requires certain attention just because you partook in agric at a point in your life. And at least also in your house, your backyard garden, or you investing as a secondary or tertiary profession in agric should not be too difficult for you to understand. So we were of the opinion that agric should have been made a foundational course. In fact, our major input into the curriculum was to make agric we call it basic practical agriculture, a foundational course, so that at least in Form 1 everybody would do agric, non-examinable, just like the physical
PEH
education
and
PEH.
robotics.
But it didn't fly. I'm sure many others had various proposals to have other subjects being mainstream or same. So, but in subsequent reviews, we'll continue to advocate that agric be made foundational because we need that basic practical agricultural skills. But the good thing about agric in this particular subject combination is that we now have agricultural science and agric. They are two different subjects.
Yeah.
One is a science subject, agricultural science, and the one is a much more practical agric subject. Okay. So if you have an interest in going to do, let's say, you're a business student or a general student, but you want to go and do BSc agric in the university, if you did agricultural science and biology combinations, for instance, even though you are a general student, you can go to the university and do BSc agric. Okay, because the BSc agric itself, the agricultural science is a science subject, biology is a science subject. So you don't need to go and do physics, chemistry, biology, add maths to go and do agric in the university. As it stands now, for you to go and do BSc agric in the university, you must be a pure science student. And that is why you have very, very few numbers making it, because those who end up there are people who perhaps wanted to do medicine, couldn't get through.
Yeah.
And then they have to follow agric. So the permutations here will enable the general students to have the opportunity of doing agric at a tertiary level, which is also great.
Well, I want to find out from you, Mr. Asare, while this educational potential of this new curriculum can be praised or argued in both ways, it appears there are still some concerns from teachers. There's a quote here from the Upper East Regional Chairperson of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, Madam Ivy Naso. And she said, it's only when there is adequate or equal infrastructure at various schools that we can achieve an equal curriculum. And this is a legitimate concern because we are talking about teacher training, learning materials, and technological supports, which are essential. So these factors lead me to ask, what infrastructural or structural gaps have you identified, and what provisions have been made in order for us to implement this new curriculum successfully?
What I know is that the curriculum has been piloted in over 30 senior high schools for about over a year. Okay, and the piloting process has been engaging, iterative, and feedback from the piloting, has served the purpose of strengthening and perfecting the design of the program. And I want to acknowledge the role that T-Tel, Naka, and others have played in this process. And we at EduWatch have been interested in the piloting because we raise all these issues in the rollout of the basic school curriculum. So we have been following carefully all these processes to be sure that we just don't tick boxes, but then we practically don't miss any critical step required in deploying new curricula. I am also aware that learning content has been developed, okay, and deposited on a portal. It's a portal called Microsite. It's a zero-rated website of the Ministry of Education, where all learning content, including subject-specific teacher manuals, handbooks, learning materials, have been deposited. Okay, We know that our schools, our students are being given tablets to enable them access digital learning content and participate in the digital learning revolution. And so the content they need and the content teachers need have been provided. Teachers have been trained over and over and over. They have this professional.
How many teachers have been trained?
The teachers who are going to teach in this new curriculum have been trained already.
Out of the 260 or so districts that we have, how many teachers in these schools have been trained?
No, it's not district. I mean, the senior high school teachers have already been trained. And they established what they call professional learning communities, okay, where teachers practice, discuss, and then improve upon their skills, in teaching this particular subject. So this has been ongoing for about a year now. You understand? It is not a workshop.
Right.
It's not a workshop and everybody goes home. No.
Yeah.
They actually have these PLCs, okay, and then more or less like a knowledge sharing hub for teachers to have conversations around the understanding of the curriculum, of the subject content, of the pedagogic issues, and all the other things that teachers have. And it's been going on a facilitation of detail for over a year now.
And in this 1 year, can you tell how many teachers have benefited from this training and piloting? How many teachers are we talking about?
No, what I'm saying is that teachers who are going to be taught, who are going to teach using this curriculum, have all been trained.
They have been trained. That's all you're saying?
Yes.
And I'm asking how many? Are you saying all teachers have been trained? Okay, well.
Yes. All senior school teachers have been. If you are not trained, how you can't teach it? Yes. That's the point I'm making. That in all the 705. I think there were about 705 or 700 and something senior high schools in 2023. All the senior high schools, they trained them, yes. Okay. This is different from basic schools. You see, you have 14,000 to 15,000 primary schools. So deploying curriculum in basic schools is very, very different. You have 14,000 kindergartens, 15,000 primary schools, 10,000 junior high schools. It's different. But for the senior high school, they are less than 1,000. You understand? So training of the teachers is school-based, and it's much different from what we experience, in the basic school. This training commenced long ago. They've been trained. Teachers have been trained in the use of the curriculum. And I'm saying that after the training, they establish professional learning communities where they discuss the training and the training content, the outcomes, the skills, so that they are able to build their own capacity through conversations around the subjects, and then also the pedagogy, and then other skills they require to perfect, in using the curriculum to teach. This has been done.
Talking about teachers, Ben will bring in one shortly into the conversation.
Well, we have Rose Blankson joining the conversation. She's a former teacher, she's a parent, and she's also assistant registrar at the University of Cape Coast. Madam Blankson, a very good morning to you. Could you speak up a little for me, please?
Good morning.
It's a pleasure, a real pleasure having you. How much do you know
about... It's my pleasure.
How much do you know about this this new curriculum, and what do you make of it from what you've seen?
Well, good morning to your cherished listeners. I remember a few months ago, I was on the same channel.
Yes.
And when I expressed my explicit opinion about how this current government rolls out policies, otherwise beautiful, effective policies, without engaging all stakeholders and making all stakeholders own policies that are rolled out, I was indirectly insulted as not being knowledgeable, because probably the person thought I was not reading around. The person thought that I should go about reading and that there is no need to engage even parents who are the direct beneficiaries of these policies that are being rolled out, because it's parents whose children go into these schools and they go and study or benefit from these new curricula that are being churned out. As a parent, a grandparent, who is a proud beneficiary of the free SHS, having 2 grandsons in SHS now, I dare tell you that the current grandson going to school, I would say it's only about last week that I really paid attention to what is going on around this new curriculum. Because there hasn't been much engagement. It's been the teacher, the teacher, the teacher. Yes, the teacher is being trained. The teacher has to be trained.
The teacher has to
Parents would have to guide their children when they come home. Homework, project work, other things would come out. They would come home with these things. And parents would have to be involved. The communities would have to be involved. How much engagement has gone on?
In other words,
I really don't even know much. I don't even know anything about this new curriculum and what it involves.
Okay,
Yesterday I heard there is this new sign language or whatever being introduced. And I would then mention 2 teachers who were discussing on Facebook. And one said, so who is going to teach? I mean, is every teacher equipped to teach? And then another said, well, is it PLC or that Thursday afternoon training they do? That has equipped them. They have the manuals. They have the training manuals. And it was like, a joke. But governments will come and defend that once you are pointing out the limitations that have not been looked at, you are against a policy. No. We need to engage.
Madam Langston, so the point, I guess, is this, and correct me if I'm wrong. Engagement must be done pre-policy implementation, not post-policy implementation.
Exactly,
because a lot of the time, you may get this done, but apart from the teachers who may have to put out knowledge and all of that, how about parents? How about other actors? Kofi Asare.
Exactly the point I'm making.
Right.
That policies are churned out without engaging the stakeholders, the key stakeholders. And that is how come every time it appears that every time government rolls out certain policies, some of these policies are very beautiful policies. Some of these ideas are perfect. But the way they are churned out, we have to own these policies. We have to own this curriculum. The SHS should be owned by Ghanaians.
Right.
But how was it rolled out? People who critiqued the rolling out, it became an issue. They became targets. I was insulted, as I said, as though I didn't know what I was talking about. I mean, before any good policy comes out, it will flow and run smoothly if key stakeholders are engaged before the policy is rolled out.
So in this current situation,
when I was very young, they will engage communities and they say, then they present the policy, we judge, we make suggestions. I saw my parents, my aunties, making suggestions here and there. Sometimes they will say, right, if in those days, they will give it to students. Write an essay on so and so, pros and cons of this. Before policies are turned out. Now you will be there and then boom, it is few people know about it and boom, and you go and talk about it and it's as if you don't want it to happen. So it's the lack of proper engagement.
Right.
That has been our bane.
How with this current proposition, for example, how do we make it better? Let's assume we go ahead and roll it out. How do we make it better in terms of efficacy, effectiveness? If we go ahead, there are positives to it. How do we go ahead and make it better?
Yes, so we can engage through our social media. We can engage through radio. I mean, your station goes everywhere in the world. Adverts, 5-minute sensitization, advertisements are placed there, documentaries are put out there. TikTok is there. Facebook is there. I mean, the platforms, the mediums that we are using for political campaigns and all of that, we can engage same platforms. Now, TikTok is the new normal. Everyone is advertising, doing stuff, quality information being churned out on TikTok. We can do that.
All right.
Use our local languages. Get people who can, speak the local languages fluently, who can educate in these languages.
Right.
Get voiceovers done. Get documentaries done. Record voices. Play them at community centers. We have community information centers. They announce, they give information every morning and every evening after the news. Let's have it spread all over. And then once we are able to do that, we are good to go.
All right.
We can return, go back and fetch and do the right thing.
Madam Langston, just hold for me. Sweetie may have a question for you, but I want to shoot this to Kofi Asare very quickly, and then it'll be done for me. A message came through, and the person says, the person talks about entrepreneurship. I suggest that entrepreneurship should be included. That is Steve Amenya. I don't know what you make of that. And from my end, finally, how does a curriculum like this, how does it shape the thinking of our students? We're in a global village, vis-a-vis the 4th or 5th industrial revolution. How will this impact them, do you think? Very quickly on those 2 points, Kofi Asare.
One of the major anchors of the curriculum is the integration of national values in the content. And so we have it mainstream. We don't have a subject on entrepreneurship, and then we have a subject on core nationalism, and all that. We may not have subjects standalone, but the integration of national values inform to a higher extent the design of the curriculum. And so they are all mainstream within the curriculum. I want to indicate that every topic or every particular topic is important, every topic, but not every topic can be a subject area. But then having it mainstream within the curriculum also provides an opportunity for every student, whether you are opting for that program as standalone or not, to have an experience. And that is what the particular curriculum attempts to do. I want to associate myself with the point that Madam raised. Yes, there have been some deficits in public engagement, especially on the subject permutations. And I appreciate that a lot of the stakeholder consultations did not include the parents, you understand? Yes, stakeholders, formal stakeholders. And ordinarily, once the product was cooked, after the extensive stakeholder consultations, I would have expected that a lot more public engagement would have been done, targeting parents, so that they would have been able to support their students in selecting their courses, while they selected the schools under the school computer school placement. Having said that, it is important that we prioritize the public engagement, and we are happy to support NACA to communicate more on the pathways, on the various pathways and subject mixes, so that parents understand this. Parents must understand it so that they can guide their students in selecting that. For now, the students are in school. The teachers will help them to understand it and then make the necessary selections. But the parents' input is always important. So that's an area that we are happy as an organization to support NACA in, strengthen parental on the subject mix and then the various pathways.
Well, Sweetie?
Yeah, I mean, it all makes sense. I just want to find out from Madam Rose, if aside the, lack of consultation, if you are okay with the curriculum, you've had a chance to go through it, aside the lack of consultation that you talk about. Are you okay with it?
That the two key things I took away from coming through, I haven't read the curriculum, but I've skimmed through the curriculum.
Right.
And two key things caught my attention, which I'm happy about: entrepreneurship as part of the curriculum, because honestly,
there's entrepreneurship there.
Come again?
No, go ahead. You land on
Yes,
your point.
honestly, entrepreneurship for me is a game changer. It will help, clamp down on this unemployed graduate issue. I am a full-time administrator, but I'm an entrepreneur. I don't buy fruit juices from the market. I make them myself.
Right.
I don't buy yogurt from the market. I make them myself. I make my own jewelry, and I train people to do so many things so they can earn something for themselves. And for me, so that is positive.
Okay.
But what will go into it after teaching them the entrepreneurship, the theoretical aspect, how ready are we to engage them practically? The junior secondary school system came with technical education, vocational education. We were to be trained to do leather works and all of that. These things were rolled out theoretically, but when it came to practical, we never followed it. We just let it hang. So a child knows how to cut leather and how to mold things theoretically. He will be able to recite how it is done. But when you give the child scissors and leather to measure and cut, the child will not be able to do it. Are we going to equip the children, practically to come out and excel?
Right.
I also noticed
Madam
that
Langston,
if you are doing elective science, that is, if you are science students, you will not read core science. For me, that is also positive because I felt it wasn't fair at the time where, you are reading elective science, physics, chemistry, biology, EMA, and then you are forced to do core science as well.
All right.
So these are
Thank
two
you.
things I've taken away with me, and I feel it's positive.
Thank you so much for
Maybe
adding your
in
voice to
future,
the
if I read
conversation.
it, then you'll be able to engage better.
Right. Rose Blankson is a parent. Thank you for joining us on the AM show. We also spoke to Mr. Kofi Asare, Executive Director for the Africa Education Watch, on this new curriculum that's been rolled out for second cycle schools.
Rose also is Assistant Registrar at UCC. The final point you were making, I think someone asked that shouldn't we be thinking of adding entrepreneurship? I've not seen it in there. She talks about the fact that she is happy it is in there. I don't know whether it's based on what I said, but entrepreneurship would be a good thing to add. And this was a proposition from a viewer. Well, thank you for doing the watching. Thank you for staying with us on this belt of the conversation. But there is still a lot more to come your way. You don't want to go anywhere. Stay. We'll be right back.